The United States' surprise military operation in Venezuela last week continues to fuel reactions and varying responses around the world, from America's allies to adversaries. We focused on the reactions and implications on the Korean Peninsula. For this, we have our correspondent Oh Soo-young in the studio with us. Welcome back, Soo-young.
Good evening, Tammy.
So, Soo-young, let's start with North Korea, which reacted to the news by criticizing the Trump administration. What can be made out of the response?
So if we take a look at North Korea's response, the level of its response, it's actually quite restrained than thought. Actually, the regime was very quick to denounce what it called the US's brutal and rogue actions, and even calling it out, saying it broke the international law. Rather ironic coming from North Korea.
Right.
But when you look at what it said, it didn't really elaborate on what had actually occurred, merely calling it the Venezuelan situation, without terms like strikes or attack or even seizure like Russia and China said in their statements. Also, it was not a comment by a high-level figure like Kim Jong-un nor his outspoken sister Kim Yo-jong, nor was there a standalone foreign ministry statement, but it actually came in the form of a foreign ministry spokesperson responding to a journalist's question. And one expert I talked to says that there's a reason for this.
North Korea seems to have adjusted the level of its response to the U.S. As a regime fundamentally opposed to the U.S., it couldn't remain silent, but it doesn't have major interests like China in criticizing the U.S.
Then how is the regime looking at Venezuela? I mean, does this pose any concern for the leader, Kim Jong-un?
Well, here, of course, we can only speculate as to how much Kim Jong-un might personally feel threatened by these developments, but we can safely assume that Pyongyang does quite closely observe other authoritarian leaders around the world, how they might interact or even bargain with the United States, and ultimately their fate as well. So this case has been talked about again and again, but in the past, Kim Jong-un has reportedly noted the case of Libya, the brutal death of the North African country's former dictator Muammar Gaddafi. Now, Gaddafi had given up his nuclear weapons program in response to Western demands, and he was later brought down and killed by a domestic uprising. So this reportedly served as a cautionary tale and even justification for the North Korean leader in pursuit of his nuclear weapons. So in this case of Venezuela, where America captured a sitting leader based on, of course, very highly precise intelligence, I assume this would certainly trigger caution over Kim Jong-un's security detail, possible leaks that might come from his close circle, and exposure to US intel. So Maduro's arrest could, I think, also change some strategic calculations on re-engaging with the United States as well. If you remember Maduro's interview, that took place 48 hours before his departure. He told a Spanish journalist that he and Trump had last spoken very respectfully in November. He also said he's willing to discuss oil trade and even open up to the US for investments, actually floating the idea of an agreement to combat drug trafficking. Then 2 days later, he found himself captured and standing trial in Trump's home city of New York. So all of this for Kim Jong-un, this might cause him to think twice about his interactions and, of course, potential negotiations with Donald Trump. So I'd say this might likely embolden his resolve to actually hold on to his nuclear weapons as his ultimate security guarantee, so that he will not end up like Maduro nor like Gaddafi.
North Korea believes it is different from Venezuela. Venezuela has no nuclear weapons and no ICBMs, so it cannot retaliate. However, North Korea believes it has a clear deterrent, and thus the U.S. would not dare touch North Korea. So there also seems to be a certain level of confidence, and that's why Kim is resuming his day-to-day activities. From his daily photos, his security protection doesn't seem to have increased just yet.
You know, speaking of his day-to-day activities, he's been quite active in the new year now, this time with his young daughter, Jue, right?
That's right, Tam. Very interesting. Of course, we all saw that photo of them on New Year's Eve, the New Year's celebrations, of her leaning over to kiss him on the cheek.
Right.
Her mother smiling next to them, almost looking like a normal nuclear family.
Exactly. That's why there's been more, speculation about her potential succession, right?
That's right. So on New Year's Day, Kim Jong-un took his daughter Kim Jue to the Kumsusan Palace of the Sun, where he placed her in the exact central position where he himself actually should have stood to pay respect to his father and grandfather.
This declares to his late grandfather Kim Il-sung and his father Kim Jong-il that his daughter will succeed him as the fourth leader of North Korea. It also symbolically signals this to the public. At the upcoming 9th Workers' Party Congress, there's quite a high chance that she will be given an official position corresponding to that of a successor.
Then what else can we expect from the North's upcoming party Congress, Soo-young?
Well, we are expecting the regime to put out its foreign policy or external policy, as they say, for the next 5 years. And this, of course, will be the highest decision-making body, the Workers' Party's 9th Congress. So there we can also expect Kim as chairman to declare the continuation of his policy, simultaneously developing nuclear and conventional forces. And he'll be justifying that by strongly criticizing South Korea and the US. And there, we might actually hear him cite America's intervention in Venezuela to justify the need to further strengthen North Korea's nuclear forces.
Now, Soo-young, now that we've entered a new year, I do have to ask again, is there still a chance of the meeting between the two leaders of the North Korea and the U.S.?
Well, Tammy, as you know, chances are very slim, but it's not impossible. It really depends on how generous Chinese leader Xi Jinping might be feeling, as President Trump will be visiting Beijing in April, and Xi Jinping might be inspired to play the role of mediator and invite Kim Jong-un to Beijing, where he could potentially meet with Trump.
North Korea is currently building hospitals across different regions, but it lacks essential medical equipment to put inside those hospitals. If China were to support North Korea with such urgently needed supplies and invite Kim to Beijing, that could naturally create an opportunity for Trump and Kim to meet.
Of course, President Lee Jae-myung this week has also agreed on the need to revive dialogue with Pyongyang during his talks with Chinese leader Xi Jinping. So all of this, again, really overwhelmingly depends on how motivated China is to promote better relations between Pyongyang and Washington and the two Koreas as well.
Indeed, as ever, let's wait and see. Soo-young, thanks for coming in tonight.
Thanks for having me, Tammy.